According to Wikipedia, with praise given towards the gameplay, story, characters, and music, Persona 4 received critical acclaim and is considered one of the greatest games of all time. And other critical praises such as a 90 on Metacritic, and praise from critics and fans alike. It is obvious that Persona 4 is a masterpiece and a timeless classic. I disagree with these statements. Now I don't think this game is bad by any means. I just don't really think it is a masterpiece or timeless classic. But before we start, I will tell you about my experiences before I played Persona 4 Golden. So around November of 2022, I picked up Persona 5 Royal for the Nintendo Switch. I absolutely loved it. The story, the characters, the gameplay, and the soundtrack were some of the best that I have ever experienced in my 13 years of living. After finishing the game on Christmas Day of that year, I felt so empty. Luckily, I picked up Strikers and have yet to finish it, but from how far I have played it, it is really good. On January 19, 2023, I picked up Persona 4 Golden and was so excited to play it. When I beat about February 12, 2023, I was slightly underwhelmed by it in terms of story, characters, and gameplay. In this video, I will be talking about why Persona 4 disappointed me, and please note that I do not hate this game at all. I think it is a pretty good game, but it just disappointed me in many ways that I think 5 and 3 did better, and whenever I hear people praise it in some areas, it makes me wonder if we even played the same game. I hope you enjoy it. My main problems with the story boil down to the pacing, enjoyment value, and tone dissonance. Let me elaborate on them more. Now I know the pacing in the Persona series isn't the best, but the pacing in 3 and 5 didn't stop me from enjoying the stories in those games. Persona 4, on the other hand, feels as if the entire game, nothing really important happens. Now I have played games with slow pacing before. Some of my favorite games of all time are Persona 3 and Xenoblade Chronicles 2. However, I found the main setups in those games to be more entertaining and engrossing than Persona 4. My biggest problem with the pacing is that I never really felt like I was accomplishing something. Up until Naoto's coming into the investigation team, Yosuke pretty much saved the team's butts. While this is another factor that makes me like Yosuke, this contributes to the feeling of no accomplishment. I believe an underrated YouTube called Bubble Tea says it greatly. By the time the team actually starts to get further into the mystery, it is in August. The game starts in April. That is about 4 in-game months of investigating. Do you want to know what the investigation contains? That is right, slice-of-life scenes. Now please note that I am no hater of slice-of-life scenes. This is the Persona series, after all. But, these slice-of-life scenes, while entertaining, don't really complement the story by facilitating character growth, foreshadowing, or plot development. Let's take a look at the game released before Persona 4, Persona 3. In Persona 3, there are slices-of-life cutscenes in the story, but I believe these to be better than Persona 4's because they actually facilitate plot growth, character development, and foreshadows things for future events. Next, we have the enjoyment value. I still remember being in awe by Persona 5's opening and how much it hooked me in less than 10 minutes. I still remember how much I was intrigued by Persona 3's opening with learning about the Dark Hour and the Shadows. I still remember how bored I was throughout Persona 4's opening. Instead of hooking me within an hour, it took me over 30 hours to get at least a bit hooked within the story. Do you want to know what that part was? When Nanako died, of course. Not a single time in the game was I ever at least entertained. The slice-of-life scenes didn't help, though that could be because my connection to the characters wasn't as strong compared to C's and the Phantom Thieves. And it is not like I hate murder mysteries. Danganronpa is one of my favorite game series, and yet, I find it to be more entertaining than whatever the freak Persona 4 had going for its story. By the time the story at least got entertaining, it was November. 30 hours into the game. Want to hear something even more funny? Persona 3 is the game that is criticized for having a slow start, but I was hooked in less than an hour and wasn't ever bored throughout my 35-hour playthrough of the game. When I play story-driven video games, if it isn't a well-written story, I at least want an entertaining story. For my extremely controversial example, meet The Last of Us Part 2. Now I know that I am destroying my small channel by mentioning one of the most controversial games of the decade, but I am feeling daring right now. In The Last of Us Part 2, you have an extremely poorly written game with a very bad ending and confusing message. But while it has some very bad writing, it is pretty entertaining with seeing how much revenge consumes Abby and Ellie. I know that this isn't the best comparison, what I am trying to say is that a badly written story can still be entertaining. Now I think Persona 4 has decent writing. But I feel that the story is so boring and it fails to interest me until late game. Finally, we have the tonal dissonance. For those who do not know, tonal dissonance is when the tone of a scene doesn't match the situation the scene is in. Persona 4 has a lot of this. The biggest example is when Mr. Maruka is killed. You would think teenagers who are trying to stop the murders would, try and stop the murders after their frickin' teacher was killed off. But no, instead we just have more slice-of-life scenes that contribute nothing to the plot. This is the tonal whiplash in the game, and it doesn't really complement the story at all. Overall, with the horrendous pacing, horrible enjoyment value and terrible tonal dissonance, Persona 4's story was extremely disappointing and such a letdown. After beating the game, I remember seeing so many people saying that the story in Persona 4 is so much better than 5's, and I am always wondering if they played Persona 4 with how atrocious the story is. 3 and 5 have way better stories than whatever Persona 4 has that it called a plot. Now this one is going to be pretty controversial because one of the biggest praises of Persona 4 are the characters and how they act like real friends. Now I am not going to deny this. The investigation team, like the Phantom Thieves and C's, are best friends. However, I wasn't as connected to the investigation team as I was to the other groups. I will say that having their hidden selves in dungeons was a cool concept. Now if only it was executed well enough. You see, Persona 4 starts off a habit in which after the main dungeon, a character's development is stored in the social link. This is a really bad idea because the character will remain static throughout the rest of the game. Please note that as much as I love the Phantom Thieves, I am not excusing this from them either. Because of the social link development, I give the Best Cast of Characters award to Persona 3. In Persona 3, instead of having a character's development in a social link, it is instead in the main story, and the player can witness the character development instead of it being locked in side content. Persona 4 also starts this trend in which the main group is always surrounded by the main character. This is also in 5, I am not trying to excuse it there. I really have no idea why Atlus decided to add this in. This makes the cast unable to stand on their own as characters. I really do hope that they fix this for Persona 6. If Persona 6 is even a thing. As much as I wasn't as connected to the investigation team, I still liked some people. Best girl is Naoto, and best boy is Yosuke. My opinion on that is fact, not opinion. Besides my opinion on the main cast, this is easily the most controversial thing that I have to say. I don't like this game's gameplay. Not really unpopular, right? Now I am going to say that I prefer the gameplay that Persona 3 had instead. This is where I get crucified. This mainly boils down to the dungeon gameplay. The main combat system wasn't that different enough for me to really care that much. While I think the concept for the main dungeons in this game is the best in the series, they are my least favorite to explore. In Persona 4, the dungeon crawling is pretty similar to Persona 3's, however, I find it way more annoying than Persona 3's Tartarus. In Tartarus, you pretty much have a maze, and you have to climb up a certain number of floors. Persona 4, on the other hand, has these very out-of-place puzzles throughout dungeons, and I guess that it is supposed to make the dungeons less repetitive, but I don't think it works. It just makes the dungeons more tedious, and I just find it very annoying. Like Tartarus was very tedious, but it wasn't super annoying that I had to go backtracking every other floor and looking up potentially spoiler-containing guides. Please note, as this is a pretty controversial opinion to have, this is mostly just my experience. If you prefer 4's dungeons, please don't let this video stop you from liking it. While I have been hating on this game for the entire video, please note that I do not hate this game at all. Do I hate elements of it? Yes. But I still think this game is decent at best. But please don't let this video impact whether you like this game or not. If you like it, I am honestly jealous of you. Every time I think of Persona 4 or look at its box art, I always wonder, why couldn't I like this game as much as I wanted to? And it really is a shame for me because I wanted to love this game as much as the rest of the fandom does. Anyway, I hope you could at least understand some of my points if you didn't like the video. I just made this video to fully let my thoughts out and to see if anybody else had the same opinions as me. Comment, like/dislike or subscribe. I hope you have a great day.